Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. See if we're live here. I think we're live. At least we should be live. There we go. Finally showing up in the LinkedIn notifications. Welcome, everyone. It's Career Happy Hour. Every Friday, 3 o'clock Pacific time, we come here for Career Happy Hour. Why? Because it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and we might as well get together, as Terry Smith says occasionally, cocktail hour. It's an opportunity for you to share some of the challenges you might be facing and to get some support. And by the way, to actually have a community that you can come to and get answers and networking opportunities. Everyone here is open, what they used to call a LinkedIn open networker. And by putting your LinkedIn profile address in the chat, you're signaling to everybody that you are open to and available for networking, because there's nothing more difficult than initiating a networking process when you're not comfortable with it, you don't believe in it, and you know you should be doing it, but you don't really know how. Please put your LinkedIn profile in the chat, regardless of whether or not you're joining us by Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, or in fact, this platform called LinkedIn, where most people find opportunities today. By the way, you're welcome to put any questions you have in the chat box, or there is a link in the description. You could come on, and in the description, you'll find an opportunity there. Let me change up I like blue. Do you like blue? Let's try, well, it's getting to be spring. Why don't we do something a little green? Is that too green? There we go. That looks pretty good. You can join me for live coaching. Not a problem. Whatever it takes. There is a link in the chat or in the description for you to join that way. Let me get also that link over into the social channels here so that you can have it. Hopefully you can hear me okay. If that's the case, please let me know. You can join me live. That's absolutely acceptable. Free coaching. Yes. There we go. It's in that one. And you're going to see it twice on the screen here, unfortunately. Well, that's interesting. Never saw that before. No, I want this one. Oh, that's only going to go to that one. No, I want it to go to all of them. Use the bot. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out the new thing here. You can join me now for free coaching. Absolutely. You can see that now, because I use the bot, it pops up on YouTube and all the other channels as well. But it doesn't appear that the LinkedIn chat is coming across, so I apologize for that. We might have to handle the LinkedIn chats individually because I don't see them here. LinkedIn is read only, but it's not showing up here. My apologies. I might have to restart the stream, though, to get those to show up. Anyway, I'll have my LinkedIn open. Good to see you, Terry. Good to see you, Leif. Awesome. Wonderful. Fantastic. It's a wonderful Friday. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andrew Beach. I'm an executive coach. I'm a teacher of self-education. I help professionals like you communicate their value to find great opportunities faster, whether you're working or not. I do that through confident communication, practical planning, and effective networking. These three things combined create a trifecta, a three-legged stool, if you will, of success for many of the people I coach. I'm here today because it's Career Happy Hour. This is a way for me, after a long week, all of us have had a long week, for us to give back to the community. Hi, Bob. Good to see you. Sunny day. Yeah, it's actually really windy, and there's a lot of, I guess, warnings here in the Portland metro area for the relative humidity here is very dry at the moment, which is unusual for Oregon. And we have a lot of concerns based on last year, forest fires and that sort of thing. So keep us in your thoughts, in your prayers, that sort of thing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have to turn off the chat overlay. It's not helping us right now because none of the chats from LinkedIn are coming across. So let me know. I'll keep it open on one side, and I'll monitor the chats that way. But I was just going to share some interesting insights because I think there's a lot going on, current events that we can lean into today. Many of you may be in a process of interviewing, network market planning. If you have a question, by all means, access the chat and just put your question in the chat. I'm perfectly open to any of those things. Awesome. So a little news to share. Let's look at, I always like to check out the LinkedIn homepage and see what's accessible there. So give me a second. There was one there that I wanted to review with you. Some of it's in relation to LinkedIn, but there's another one here I thought was fascinating. It was an executive notification. Shopify loses 3 top executives. The exodus of Shopify executives continues with 3 of its 7 chief level officers leaving the e-commerce giant. Chief Executive Officer Toby Leckie announced in a blog post that Shopify's Chief Talent Officer, Chief Legal Officer, and Chief Technology Officer are transitioning out of their current roles in the coming months for individual reasons. I don't know what that means. The 3 are the latest in the string of top-level departures, which come during changing times for the company as it plans to extend fulfillment across North America. Fascinating. I don't know what that means, but the reason I bring up news stories like this is a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. And when I see a movement like this, it causes me pause and understand why. When I understand why, I can then approach some of these opportunities, whether it's to find out firsthand from the people who left or to look at people at the company that are still there that might put me in the place of CTO. I don't know, Bob, would you want to be a CTO for Shopify? It's something to think about. It's absolutely something to think about. And when you start looking at it from that perspective, it gives you some kind of awareness to when things happen, movement is there, opportunity is going on. Yeah, thank you, Terry. I love that you actually are really good at doing this, that you're really good at, discerning or interpreting what individual reasons means. And yes, I mean, it certainly could mean that there's a turf war happening in the C-suite. I do know that Shopify, among other major players in the marketplace, have made moves to remove certain people from their platform. I won't pick sides or say anything about that. But sometimes there's some, how would you say it? People have certain values and there'll be a values conflict there. Good. Happy sunny day for those of us sitting. Okay. So that means, Bob, it sounds like you might be outdoors. Good to see you. Hello, Leif. Good to see you as well. We have a half dozen or so people here. What I might want you to do is, if you have a chance, down below, I mean, literally like down below is a share button. So if you could please go ahead and click the share button, share this out with your networks so that we can get more legs for this as it happens. The other side of this that I thought was interesting, and the big news, I think, in the last week or so, is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And, it really shows you when there's opportunities like this, or challenges in some cases, that there's positive and negative results, and there's opportunity there. And I'm not the one to advocate for ambulance chasing. That is a practice, I think, has certain issues with being honest and skirting integrity. However, I think when we pay attention to some of these news events, especially when it relates to some of our target companies, we can be, how would you say it, plugged in, aware, demonstrating that we can enter a conversation that may already be happening inside the organization, landing there in a way that allows us to be seen as a resource and a solution at the same time. That's like a win-win for sure. Then, of course, there is, another mass murder event in Indianapolis. I'm not going to comment on that, but it certainly is tragic. And, not that we don't have enough tragedy in our lives. I think what this also indicates is that people are reaching the end of their ropes, and they're trying to find ways to, how would you say, deal with some of the things they may be feeling. I see it as a tragedy. So what I would suggest, if you know somebody who's in a bad way or in a bad place, that you be the person that brings them out of that place, so that things like this may not happen. It's not that they won't ever happen. You may be the person that stands in the gap and helps them choose a different path. Let's see. Interesting. Apple reveals streaming payment. What's that? Oh, penny per stream. Okay, never mind on that. Interesting. Housing stocks. The inventory, U.S. housing market is on fire. New data from Freddie Mac reveal U.S. is 3.8 million single-family homes short of meeting current demand for housing. That's a huge number. What does that mean? That's a seller's market for sure. I know people that own quite a bit of real estate, investment properties, and I don't think they're going to give those up. So the reason we have a shortage likely is because, I'm wondering, is because if there's still a lot of shadow inventory out there. I'm not sure that that's the case, but in 2008, 2009, there was a lot of inventory that went into the shadow inventory owned by certain holders of real estate that way, who bought up some of these properties from the government. So I'm not sure if that's still out there, because you would think the pent-up demand would be satisfied. So where is this demand coming from? I mean, that's the biggest question. If you have any comments on that, please put it in the chat. Let's see. So here's another interesting story. Why can't businesses find workers? Some businesses, especially services, are struggling to hire back workers, even with the unemployment rate at 6%. I can tell you why, because I've actually talked to a lot of them. They got their stimulus money, all 3 checks. They got their unemployment. They're getting paid more to not work. And that's certainly an issue. Now, that's not every issue. Certainly, there's the role of, the pandemic. And do I feel safe going back to work? Or do I feel like I'm going to expose myself? And if so, is that going to be a fun environment to be in, having to wear a mask and socially distance all day long? That can be really hard. What I've seen is a lot of companies might want to pay more in order to get people to work. That's the only solution that I see to that problem. Or people coming to the end of their their unemployment benefits and or the money that they got from the stimulus. So what do they quote here? While expanded jobless benefits and pandemic stimulus payments are playing a role in dynamic, research suggests it's small compared to the scale of the economy's reopening. Companies hired almost 1 million Americans in March, the most since the initial rebound from the pandemic in August. Before that, in the aftermath of World War II. Wow. Other reasons for the disconnect between labor and the level of unemployment, per the New York Times. 1, health concerns. Research shows more people get vaccinated, the higher the employment rate goes. Caretaking. The census showed that 14%, interesting, 14% of unemployed Americans are home caring for children or the elderly amid shutdowns. Doing homeschooling, I hadn't thought about that, but that makes perfect sense. I think, and Terry could probably affirm this, companies are going to have to be a lot more flexible. I think I saw a report here earlier this week about Generation X. I fall into that category. Some are on this session, probably boomers. Some are probably Gen Z or what have you, millennials. But I'm in a category where that's a possibility. I've got both of those, right? I've got kids and school, and potentially, not right now, but potentially where I would be a caretaker for my parents or my wife's parents. But interesting. Competition, businesses such as Amazon. And it's funny. We predicted this. In fact, Terry and I think we talked about this when COVID first hit. I predicted that those companies that would scoop up the talent early and often and fast and were agile in their practices would be at an advantage. And that's exactly what happened. Amazon took a lot of the candidates I've collaborated with in the last year have gone to Amazon or AWS. Good on them. They were agile. They had the capital, and they hired these people. They did not skip a step. Now, certainly demand for their product and service has gone up too. So there's some issues there, but let's see. Thrived mid-rise are hiring like mad, putting added pressure on others, such as restaurants that must contend with social distancing concerns. Yeah, I feel bad for restaurant owners. I mean, I think I saw an article on the Business Journal this week that 1,000, literally 1,000 restaurants in Oregon will never come back. They're lost. They're gone forever. 1,000 restaurants. Can you imagine? Anyhow. So the next one here, actually, the next thing I got from LinkedIn actually today is that they improved their search experience on the platform. And they added, not surprisingly, courses to the search, one of the search filters. So when you go in there, you'll notice that all of that has changed. The search parameters have changed a little bit, but you know, it is what it is. So we could go over that and discuss that, or if you have questions, let's see. Hello from Burbank. Good to see you, Teresa. I got my first Pfizer dose a week ago. Yeah, a lot of people getting theirs. Okay, Terry's got his dose. Yeah, okay, good. Good to see that. You had to drive to Independence? That's funny. Yeah, not too far from there. My wife's, my in-laws got theirs at the county fairgrounds of all places. Anyhow, I think it's risky to suggest the workers, this is Terry, are to blame for the dearth of workers. Employers have their culpability as well. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Or the lack of workers. Yes, companies have a ton of work ahead. Yeah, I mean, they have to be flexible. They have to be willing to take a step back and say, you know what? Yeah, you can work from home 3 days a week, right? Because that's what you get with the schooling, at least in Oregon here. It's a hybrid model. They go to school 2 days a week. Great, I'll be in the office 2 days a week. The other 3 days, guess what? I got to be home to homeschool my kids and watch after them. Yeah, you know, the thing is, Terry, I don't think there's a lack of workers. There's a lack of people willing to work. And I say that in an affectionate way, because it seems like there's plenty of jobs at the low end that are out there to be had. I mean, I was just at a small coffee shop here in Beaverton this morning. Help wanted sign on the door. So there's that part of it. I think what it will do, though, this will offer an opportunity for companies to expand the type of employee, the scope of the employee that they want. So, for example, you know, let's say restaurants. Okay, great. Well, normally they would hire kids 18 and older. I say kids affectionately. That's still an adult. They want to hire kids that are 18 and older. It might force some restaurants, some places, some companies to consider, well, what about 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds? Maybe we need to open this up because if they can't get people in the open market to commit, that makes opportunity for others to enter the marketplace. Good. A lot of people getting their Pfizer shot. Amazing. Good. And so I will share my screen here, and let's go over this particular article because I think it's kind of interesting, and we can show you the new search experience if you choose. That's certainly something that we can talk about. All right, so let me get rid of the caption. There we go. That's probably a lot better. Let's get rid of my name. There we go. All right. Let me make this bigger so we can all see it. My vision is good, but it's not perfect. Anyhow, so here it is. Discover and explore more with our new intuitive, streamlined search experience. Well, it is streamlined. I don't know that it's intuitive. In terms of, what would you call it? How would I position this properly? LinkedIn is really good at creating tools for people in talent companies. The tools there are exceptionally good. For the general public, I would not say that their user experience, user interface is the best. It's generally not. And yes, you can find things, but you have to know the idiosyncrasies of LinkedIn. And so here it says, search is a critical component to help our members be more productive and successful. Our new search experience makes it easier than ever for you to find what you need, connect with your community, and discover opportunities on LinkedIn. We are a community, by the way, and people here are open and willing and able and available to meet with you. All you have to do is put your LinkedIn profile in the chat, and I encourage you, cross-pollinate. That's why we're here. Here's how you can get the most out of your search experience. Discover all you need in one search. Our improved search experience helps you discover people, jobs, posts, companies, schools, groups, and events faster. Hi, caveat there, or asterisk or pause. Events are really accessible on LinkedIn now. Many companies that do, or even associations or trade events, are now posted on LinkedIn events. How do you find those? There is no, I would say, quote unquote, events feature on the homepage. You have to do a search and then filter by events. And I can show you that if you like. Because I don't believe that there's anywhere here that you can find events. It's not like a section on LinkedIn. You can't click a logo, right? You have to do a search and then filter by events. It's the only way, at least that I'm aware of, to find that information. And we can do that if you like. But it's a great place to you could join a new session every day. Every day. You could join a new session every day to do the networking, etc., in a group context. And you would be perfectly aligned that way. So yes, you can search for companies. When searching for a company, for example, you'll find relevant people, jobs, and posts. So here's the thing. LinkedIn also completely changed the company page. It is a lot more streamlined. It's easier to scroll through. My suspicion is they did that so that it's more like the mobile device app. We've added more personalized insights to the search results, like companies that have hired coworkers or alumni. Yep. That's one of the benefits of going to the jobs tab or the company page, is you can see people. You can find additional companies. Topics. I find that interesting because there's topics we're seeing members share like never before. Content searches on LinkedIn has increased 35%. LinkedIn search feature does allow you to filter by content. And now it says topics, but you can do two things. You can filter by content, or you can filter by a hashtag. Yeah, so I can find a particular topic like vaccine. I wonder what that does. Yeah, so they just do a keyword search for vaccines or remote work. Let's see what that does. Yeah, keyword search for remote work. Okay, you type it in the search bar, you find news and posts and relevant jobs and conversations. You can also now glimpse your connections' recent activity when you search for them. Interesting. Making it easier for you to engage with their posts and conversations. So, well, what if that's not a connection? I wonder if you could do that for non-connections. Like if there's a thought leader that you follow, like Josh Bersin. Let's take him as an example. Let me see what happens when I put Josh Bersin in the chat or into the search box. Oh, shoot. He and I are connected on LinkedIn, so that's not going to help. Oh, yeah. So now I can post by posts. I'll be darned. Yeah, it'll filter by any mention of Josh Bersin. Fascinating. And I can put date posted by. There's a lot of different filters here. Maybe I should show this. So here's the deal, right? I search for Josh Bersin and I can see his posts. Yes, there's 375 results for posts or content that way. I can see date posted, sort by, add an industry. Let's do latest, show results. Yeah, I mean, I don't see that posted by. There we go. Me or my first connections. So it looks like you can only filter by first connections. You can't filter by people that are, say, second connections. So anyhow, so that's what it looks like. We'll come back to that in a second. Jobs. When searching for a specific job, like customer service specialist, you'll find job postings and number of applicants for those roles, related posts to browse group. Okay, good. Learning courses. Yes, this is the filter they added to the search results. I think you may notice that. I'll bring this back. Is that here I can do posts, but they added courses. So has Josh Bersin created any courses? Yes, he has. Look at that. So by putting that keyword search in and not having access to all filters, right? I think a lot of these search terms, which is interesting to me, they didn't have this before, have added an all filters option. That means at some point in the future, it's likely you'll be able to filter courses by specific items. You get that too with groups, right? With groups, I can click all filters and I get nothing. which means to me, LinkedIn is actually doing a great job of integrating a lot of these features into the native experience here on their platform. But let me go back to the news. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Sorry about that. Learning in courses, events. Yes, you can do the events. We talked about that. Here's the thing. I think I've seen increased usage of the LinkedIn events, and that's true because it says here 21 million members attended virtual events last year. That's a lot. I mean, to go from nothing in events to 21 million, I think that events feature has only been around for a couple of years. It hasn't been around very long, and it was underutilized because people, and I hope they refine it, because if there's one area that could use some refining, it's the events feature on LinkedIn. So here you can see, and this is not uncommon, that LinkedIn will invest heavily in their mobile app long before they bring these features to the desktop version. So if you have questions about that, certainly put them in the chat. But I'm going to tell you, this is an opportunity for each one of us to get more intimately involved and understand how the mobile app works, how it's different, and that there's a lot more features and functions on the mobile app than there is on the desktop app. So keep that in mind as you go through. Let's see. Terry has a observation. The problem is that employers are saying they can't fill positions. I would contend that a lot of employers are taking advantage of the perceived availability of people to be very tactical and precise about their hiring. Yes, of course. Some companies are taking that approach. To borrow one of your tropes, I think a lot of employers are aiming to hire the 100% fit. Yes, because of the volume of candidates that are available. That doesn't mean a candidate's going to say yes. I think that's the challenge here, is that they're looking for 100%. The candidate doesn't say yes, and they have to start over. Not to mention that every job title that's out there is impacted. So maybe I'll go through your comments there in just a second, Terry, as soon as I get through this deal. Use filters to narrow down your search. Now, there's one caution, and I'm glad that they're bringing this up here because they want you to use filters. They want you to refine these searches. Why? Because if you do enough of these searches, you will hit a commercial use restriction. And that means you will have to buy LinkedIn Premium service. Isn't it great that they're encouraging you to do all these searches and you go out and do them, and all of a sudden the access to the program doesn't work anymore? Why? Because you reached a restriction, and your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn access will be throttled until the first of the next month. Okay. And just because you have LinkedIn Premium, that's the career version, I don't know, it's called Talent or Career Talent, something or other. That doesn't get you around the commercial use restrictions. Only the business one was, and I think that's $60 a month. So think about that. I did write an article on that. It's called How to Hack LinkedIn. If you go to my profile page, you'll see it on the homepage under the featured section. Good. Get suggestions on what actions to take. To make it easier for you to act, we've added more calls to actions in search results. That's good. Now you can simply tap follow to stay on date with companies that you follow. Save jobs. We're excited to add search redesign, and there's more to come. Good. Yeah, I mean, that's a couple of major changes they've made in the last, 3 months, roughly speaking. So that's the news that's fit to print, at least for now. Let's hide that page and come back here. Again, if you have any questions, comments, put them in the chat. I would love to see some questions so that I could answer them, or perhaps offer some guidance on them. Let's go back and see what Terry said, because he stated a lot here. The problem is that employers, down to borrow one of your tropes, 100%. Yep. Stated differently, employers have always defaulted to the plug and play model of hiring, and that has been exacerbated by the perception that there is an unlimited supply of unemployed people. So as employers, we are more likely to try to hold out for that plug and play employee. That often can mean that the spec they were hiring for is a purple unicorn, but employers are willing to do that because they think they can. And because their competitive marketplace may be soft enough that they think they can get away with not plugging open positions. Yeah, I mean, I guess the other side of that, Terry, is there might be a lot of leaders that are risk averse, anxious, not willing to make a financial commitment. And so they're hesitating and making decisions on moving forward or not with a candidate because they don't want to get caught between a rock and a hard place if the market takes a turn in the wrong direction. So, I mean, that makes sense to me for sure. Let's see what Bob says. I'm definitely surprised by how often I see a hard requirement for a very specific skill on high-level positions. Folks can learn those skills very quickly. Spend 3 days. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's interesting, though, how much we take for granted in terms of what we read in a job description. In that, hey, yeah, it says high-level position, and so they scoped it out wrong. Or they're looking for somebody that can actually take on this role and one or two others. There may be more to that than meets the eye in that because they're not able to attract people or they don't have budget for more headcount, that they might be considering hiring somebody that's a jack of all trades, and they're going to expect him to do so, or him or her to do so on a day-to-day basis. Good. So, I mean, if anybody wants to come on live, that's open to you as well. Just click the little link in the description, or I put it in the chat there on LinkedIn. Absolutely. You're welcome to come on live. I do like hanging out here with y'all, and sometimes doing it by myself can get fatiguing. So if anybody feels like coming on, they can do that by all means. Just click the little icon there. The little link in the chat or the description. I think it's in the description, isn't it? Yeah, it's in there. Join me live for free coaching. Good. Any questions regarding LinkedIn, networking, market planning, interviewing? What do we see in the marketplace? Challenges you're facing? I really appreciate this community because of what it does for each other. I want you to know that I appreciate everybody that shows up here every week, even though you're not maybe commenting in the chat or offering guidance to anybody that way. I heard a beep. Oh my gosh. It's the auspicious, the venerable, the amazing. I feel like I'm in the what do you call it? The circus. Anyway, let's see what Terry has to say here. Terry.
Howdy.
You're on live.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be on live.
Disco lights.
Well, you got to break up the monotony somehow.
How have you been, sir?
Good. I've been very busy these last couple of weeks, so I've been a little bit less engaged in some of the activities that you put on, but nice to jump in here on a nice Friday afternoon, beautiful day here in Portland. And it's been a very hectic couple of weeks. Now I get to take the foot off the gas for a few days, and then Thursday of next week I'll do a presentation to a small company in Wilsonville around a needs assessment that I just put the finishing touches on today. So with any luck, that conversation will lead to many more conversations. So we'll see what happens.
What exactly is a needs assessment?
Well, in this particular case, the company has some very significant changes that they're not just considering, they're heading towards one way or another. And so what they wanted to do was to have somebody come in and really look at the whole breadth of processes and systems and implications for change and so forth, particularly if you've got, a leadership team that needs to be rebuilt, or, leaders that are going to be potentially stepping out. You just really want to determine what you're going to, what your total impact is, what the whole picture looks like, have somebody objective come in and say, this is what this appears to be. And then, help them design their action plan for how they're going to get through it.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So assessing their organizational development needs.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
It's really cool.
Seems like you're getting a lot of traction in the consulting side of things. That's good.
Seems to be happening. Yeah. It strikes me as kind of a, feast or famine kind of scenario. I mean, there's probably going to be times when there's just nothing to do, and then there's going to be times when it's to be overwhelming. and I'm hoping to be able to figure out a way to kind of balance that glide. So, we'll see what goes with that. But, you were talking about the whole concept that companies are saying, gee, we can't find workers, right? And I mean, gosh, there's so many things to unpack with that. I think it's really an interesting topic, because for all of the things that, and I do worry, I think, there's this natural tendency to say, well, we can't find qualified talent. I mean, that's been a thing since the 80s, right? Well, I can't find talent. We can't find qualified talent. Well, yes, you can. You can find talent, right? It's just what you're willing to do to go find that talent, and what you're willing to do to look at it holistically, right? Bob made the comment about, very trainable skills being, hardwired skills for very high level positions. Well, that's kind of backwards, right? His point is that, you can train technical skills, for example. You can train, how to code and this, that, or the other thing. And particularly at a higher level, people probably are pretty good at that anyway, and their ability to pick up other skills is probably not too much, not too badly incremental, right? So, it really comes back to.
But, along those lines though, Terry, what is the appetite of organizations to invest in training? If they have consistent, let's say, needs across the organization, they may not have people to train, right? So if one part of the business is impacted, my suspicion is so is other parts.
Yeah.
And they may not have the appetite for that.
Right. Well, and then so the data that they need to look at is, okay, what's been the past history of hiring to the skill set versus hiring to the individual, or hiring to, a broader spectrum. And, what is your, if you have an interest in or desire for longevity and, having people on board as the organization evolves and being part of that equation, what are you willing to do to make sure that you get the right people, not necessarily just the right skills, but the right minds and the right hearts, and part of that may be, training and development, and part of that may be a necessary equation. And you just have to decide whether you're going to build that into your cost structure or not.
Totally.
That's the deal, and yeah, the other part of it that's very entertaining is that in a lot of organizations, particularly in manufacturing, I've found this to be the case where training and development winds up getting buried in other costs, right? When you do your annual budget, particularly in organizations that are really, really watching the bottom line very closely, right? So you do your annual budget and you peanut butter that cost out across other factors, right? Because that's just how you do it. I worked in a company, a manufacturing group years ago, where somebody said, I don't know who it was, but somebody said, hey, we should really do a line item for training and development, right? And so everybody said, okay, let's go do that. So 100 or so factories go do that. So basically they take all that peanut butter cost and they stick it in a line item. Guess what? The C team looks at that and goes, are you out of your minds? Right? We got to cut that right away. Well, no, you don't want to cut that because that is involving training on, for example, machinery and equipment that's potentially lethal if misused or improperly handled, right? Or materials that are potentially lethal or what have you, right? But the point is, you got to get that kind of training in just to be competitive.
But that shouldn't be on the accounting budget, right? Or
no, it was in
sales budget. It should be on the operations and safety budget, right?
Which is exactly what they did. They said, okay, hey, we'll cut all that. We'll cut those costs. And so they sewed them back into the operations budget, right? Yeah. But I mean, that's the interesting thing about it is that they were spending that money all along. They were just being creative about how they documented it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
what's your impression on the status of the marketplace right now?
I think it's cautiously rebounding. I think the data that is very interesting is the whole fourth wave discussion that's out there right now. The British variant is the one that has now taken over as far as transmissibility in the U.S. It's now the number one. The plateaus are starting to shift upwards. State of Oregon just released data today about number of hospital beds, number of deaths. That's going like that, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's may or may not be a result of the fourth wave. I mean, if you look at it sort of statistically, it's about the right time for that sort of stuff to start happening based on the infection rates that started going up about 4 weeks ago. So, on those terms, it's the eternal struggle between we've got to be just a little longer. We've got to tamp this thing down. We've got to hit it in the head, and we've got to keep hitting it in the head, and we've got to keep doing the caution things that we're doing, and people just having enough of it. And now it's summertime, right? Or at least it feels like it for the moment.
Yeah.
Right. And so people are, they're stir crazy. They want to get out. They want to see each other. They want to hug. Who can blame anybody for that? Right. And so that's the real synergy right now is, and there's a perception that, the vaccine, if we get enough shots in arms, we can get ahead of it, and it's this kind of thing day to day to day, and so I would say the market right now from an employment standpoint, because of those things, I think the employment market is cautiously optimistic. The numbers are looking good. New unemployment filings are down. New employment is up. All the macro metrics are there. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just going to be a matter of, how well we continue to manage ourselves, our behavior, so that we can stay ahead of the thing. It's still out there. People are saying, "Oh, hey, it's great. I got my shots. I'm good."
Sounds like something out of the X-Files.
Kind of.
It's something out there, right? the truth. No, the truth is out there. Isn't that the one? Yeah, exactly.
Truth is out there.
Good. So what say you, Terry, about the job market, and what do you think people should be really focused on right now?
Well, I'm strictly in your camp on this one. I think the networking thing has to be a fundamental part of it, and you've said it, and I've said it. It's really hard. It's not the easiest thing in the world to go do, but the dividends are there. So here's an example. In my world, so a certain company in Vancouver it just posted for a director of HR position. Just literally this week, and I am longtime friends with a previous incumbent of that position who still has a lot of close ties with that company. And so I reached out to her and said, "Hey, I just saw this. What'd you think of it?" Sent her the posting. She says, "Oh, I know all about that." And I said, "So," and then she wrote, and then she said, "How can I help? What can I do?" And as I say, I've known her for a long time. I said, "Would you be willing to do a warm introduction?" And she said, "You know what? I'll reach out to the chief people officer, and if she's open to it, then I will do it." So that was yesterday. So I haven't heard anything yet today, but it's that kind of thing. When you find a moment like that, or you create a moment like that by networking with people and by developing good contacts and keeping in touch with them, then that's where that can really pay off. So fingers crossed that leads to a conversation, and if it does, and we decide that we either can or can't work together, that's still one more step that we've made that didn't happen otherwise. So I would say, keep the pedal on the floor as far as, getting out and talking to people, getting to know new people. I've got a great call next week with somebody from the state of Oregon who's in the agricultural space, and specifically in the cannabis space. And she and I have connected a couple of times, and we're going to sit down and talk about, business opportunities. She operates on the eastern side, and she knows a ton of people over there. And so we're going to talk about how we connect the dots between me and them. So
nice.
Just keep doing it. Just keep having conversations, and don't pass up an opportunity to have a conversation,
Good. So I along those lines, I was kind of curious, do you find that it's easier to do the networking when you are chasing or trying to identify something that matters to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple of really strong vested interests in, certain, business verticals here in the area. And so when I've got a lead into, one of those verticals, I go after it real hard. Mm-hmm. The contract work I'm doing right now is not in either of those verticals, but it's a great opportunity to showcase, and I'll be able to, one way or another, I'll step away with at least this real nice 45-page needs assessment document that I can say, here's an example of the work I do, right? And so that's very beneficial. So that, again, that's don't look away from an opportunity, right? I can take that and use that to my advantage. I've got a lead in the cannabis industry who we're supposed to get together at the end of the month, and I can and we're going to talk about organizational development stuff. He's a multi-state operations guy, and he's got some real challenges with his org structure. I can hand him that 45-page document and say, here's an example of the work I can do for you, right? So, that's real exciting to me. It's going to be a lot of fun to hand that to him and just say, this is what you and I have been talking about for the last 2 or 3 months now. Here's what I can do for you, So again, opportunity, take what you have and what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish and apply it to the places where you really want to. I mean, I will tell you, in all honesty, I've gotten kind of tired of a couple of the other, verticals that I've been chasing, recently. And so I had a couple of opportunities.
But what do you mean by tired? Does that mean that you tired on the industry, or are you tired on maybe the company and the way they approach the hiring process?
The latter.
Or something else, right?
No, the latter, the company and the hiring process. I just, I reached a sort of a saturation point with this one particular group that it's like, I had 2 more of their online, on-demand interview processes, went through it. And in some, literally questions from either one that were the same, right? And were the same as ones that I had done previously. And I talked to a contact of mine there and I said, this is so routinized at this point that I'm literally just plugging stuff in from previous interviews, where I can. Now, obviously, where there's very specific questions, I don't do that. But, when they've got these general questions like, why do you want to work here, right? Okay, let me just type that in for you, or let me just copy paste from the last 4, right?
Yeah.
And so from a process standpoint, I told my contact this. I told her, I said, look, your process needs a lot of work. And I realize that's probably not the sort of thing you want to hear from a candidate. That may not necessarily have a positive influence on my candidacy for any particular role in your organization. But you need to look at that, because here I am, a senior level person with a strong desire to be a part of your organization, getting turned off by your system, not just your tool, but your approach to how you use the tool, which would lead me to a long conversation about ATSs. Anyway, yeah, I could wax poetic about that. But
yeah, of course.
But the point is that, if that's the impact you're having with your method, then you need to really look at your method, because now it is not a method of attracting people. It is a method of screening people out. And that is not an appropriate approach, I think.
Well, they're going to reap what they sow.
Right.
And so I guess the bigger question is, why do you keep going back?
Well, that's the question I finally asked myself. I said, why do I keep pounding my head against this wall? And, the reality is I don't have a reason for it. So I'm going to stop. There's other places I can go. So
is that an environment you think that would help you get around that process, or I don't want to say subvert. Is there a more optimal way to get to the hiring table, right? To the interview table? Could you do that through networking in this organization, or is that just not something that's accepted?
Well, that's an interesting point, because I have a number of friends and colleagues that work there, and universally what they say is, we've been told this is the way. And I've literally had that conversation at a VP level. Right. And I can't get the, it's a large, very structured, very kind of old school, organization. And, they've been given marching orders from a corporate level, and they present the image of, I won't say this is what they do, but they present the image of a group of leaders who are beholden to that corporate model. And who are very unwilling or unable to step away from the process to, and I, one of my contacts there, actually left the organization to pursue another opportunity, and then return to the organization several years later. And even at that, even as a returning employee with a good track record, you still had to go through the process. There's no flexibility on that. So to your point, finally I said to myself, wait a minute, why do I want to work in an organization that has that appearance?
Yeah.
That's not me.
Well, or does the process create an opportunity for you to sell consulting services because their dysfunctional process creates a vacuum because they can't bring on talent because these people are not going to play by their rules?
Exactly. That's a really good point. So another buddy of mine who works with a consulting organization, he and I are strategizing how we're going to create that wedge. So excellent. Yes, you're spot on. You're reading my mind. We've been on
more than one way to skin that cat, right?
Absolutely. No, there's a huge business there. I mean, there's a giant opportunity. You're exactly right.
Good. So. Well, okay. So then it's not that you're not fatigued by the industry, you're fatigued by that specific organization, which means that industry still has virtue in your mind.
Correct.
And so who's brand X, right?
Yeah.
Y, A, B, C, right? Who are the next ones on the list for you?
Right.
And so I would advocate going down that path.
That's what I'm working on.
Good. Awesome. Yeah. So where do you need help, guidance, support today, Terry?
I guess so these new tools that LinkedIn has rolled out, I haven't had the time to sit down and really go through them and learn them and so forth. Mm-hmm. So, and to be honest, I'm also remiss in updating my LinkedIn profile too. So that's work that I hope to get done in the next weekend time frame here, just because I've been focused on other things. And so the combination of rebuilding the page and getting up the curve on some of these tools that you've introduced really is an intriguing thing. So those are important. I got to get those done.
Yes. So the one on the search side isn't as intriguing. It's just interesting to me that they have adjusted the way the search results appear. Mm-hmm. And they've also added some filters to the process that weren't there before.
Yeah.
For the people side of things, that's pretty much the same.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you is, what for the search mechanisms, and the tools that are now available that weren't before, how do you see? So I mean, me, my world. How do you see those tools kind of leveraging what I can do using LinkedIn? In other words, how do the courses thing, that's really cool. I love that. What are some of the other sort of nuanced things that can leverage my ability to, search for roles and opportunities more effectively? What's new in that space?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's cracking the code on searching for posts. Right. And so if you can crack the code on searching for a post around a topic that you know a lot about, or that you think might drive your business or your career or your whatevers, you can do that by company. You could do that by industry. You could do that by hashtag. Mm-hmm. So however you want to slice and dice that, to me, it would be leveraging the conversations already happening, piggyback on those conversations, and then, functionally take that into a network conversation. Okay. I mean, that's what I would do, because that's going to serve you both ways, right? Both as a consultant and as someone looking for leadership roles inside of organizations.
Right. Okay.
Fair. So for example, what is a topic that you think is hot and heavy right now?
Good question. There's a lot of them. I'd say hybrid work is probably a red hot thing.
The specific phrase.
Yeah, hybrid work, or you could go hybrid return to work.
Hybrid return to work. Okay, let's just run this. Let's have some fun with this, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do. So I just did a search just really quickly. Let me optimize that a little bit. Maybe, will this work? Will it put us both at the bottom?
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so now you see the search results are segregated by people, posts, etc. It gives you the top in each category, right? But I'm most interested in posts because, yeah, I mean, they added courses here, and you know why they added courses, right? They want to sell LinkedIn Premium Service.
Right.
So that's something that I find, and a lot of companies have that. If you have your, company email attached to your profile, it's likely you have access to LinkedIn Learning. I think they're taking a lot of market share from Skillsoft or whatever the other vendors are.
Yeah.
But to me, it's looking at posts and what are people talking about, and who are the people that are kind of top of that industry.
Yeah.
And so now I'm seeing posts not just by people, but by companies.
Right. Yes. Okay. This is cool.
Okay.
I like this.
So now I can sort by, well, which ones are the top matches was what you got, or which ones are current. Right. And so now I can see here's Uber again. Uber showed up twice. Yeah. So this is where you get some breadcrumbs by, encouraging your employees to post things, right? Is these things will get new legs. So that's one way to go. Maybe you do this posted by your first connections. I don't know if there's anybody. So Lauren Francis, what is she talking about? Kedma right? Maybe I go back and, take a look at what she posted and let's see, what is she saying? And maybe I reconnect with, oops, I'm going to go to the post here. Sorry about that. But Lauren Francis is, I think, a thought leader, kind of somebody that's pretty well known in Portland. Yep. And this is a way for me to say, okay, do I know Kathy?
Right.
I might not. I certainly know Lauren, and I'd reach out to Lauren. Hey, thanks for posting that. It's one of the things I'm seeing happening across the area. How well do you know Kathy? And would you be open to, introducing me that way?
Hey, by the way, just so you bring up Lauren. So she does these little lunchbox sessions on Thursdays. They're just, tips and tricks and pointers and things like that. And next month on May 6th, I believe, I'm actually leading one of those on the topic of STAR questions.
Nice.
If you're interested, I'll send you the invite when it comes out.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
Of course. Yeah.
Cool.
So let's see. Okay.
Hey, I apologize. I got to bounce. I just realized it's 4:00 and I've got another call that I got to get on. Because I got so interested in this that I was like, oh crap, all of a sudden it's 4:00. How'd that happen?
All right, Terry.
But no, this is really cool. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Take care. Be well. So that's Terry Smith, everybody. And so this is a way that you can start filtering down and realizing, because sometimes when I go through my feed, there's post after post after post, and there's really no way for me to discern are these things interesting to me or are they not? So the other side of this is I wonder what happens if we put in hashtag hybrid. Hybrid. No, there's nothing there. Hybrid work. Hybrid work? Hybrid workplace, hybrid workforce, workspace. Let's try hybrid workforce. And now I can search that hashtag and I can see stuff related to that topic. And you can see top posts or most recent. That way I can find things that have happened in the last 20 minutes. I can find things that have happened in the last hour. Organizational psychologist. I can attend potentially a webinar on hybrid teams, right? So there's now a lot of power that comes in the search, not just for opportunity, but for people, topics, conversations. Sometimes, by the way, sometimes we get so caught up on finding the jobs or the companies, we forget the conversation is what's important. Networking at its core is just a conversation. It's not something that I'm anticipating scoring a job offer out of a network conversation. I'm looking to score. What am I looking to score? Exposure, impression, contribution. These are things that I would be looking to score when it comes to the networking side of things. So leverage this LinkedIn. I think there's a lot to be said and a lot to be gained by interacting with the LinkedIn platform, learning things as I go along, interacting with people, taking those conversations offline to have something a little more intimate between me and that person around this topic that we both have interest in. Good. Let me see if there's any other questions here before I sign off. If you have any questions, put those in the chat. Certainly, I'd be happy to answer. If that's you, just put it in the chat, and I'd be happy to look at it. Thank you, Teresa, for that observation. It can be very, very putting hurry. Yeah, so I don't know what you're saying there, Bob. You might be on the back deck, and anyway, your patio, taking advantage of the weather. All right, I don't see any other questions here. I think the chat feature is broken between LinkedIn and Restream. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Just hit me up on the private messages if that's easier for you on LinkedIn specifically, or you can go to my webpage, andrewbeach.com. That works as well. Do your best. Stay in the game. It is the weekend, yes, but next week will come, and we need to be prepared for opportunity. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. We'll see you next week on Career Happy Hour. Bye now.